I've been there. The last thing anybody wants is to end up with fake Pokemon cards, right? Maybe you've just recently bought yourself some brand new cards. Or maybe you have an older collection that you think might be quite rare or valuable. But whatever the case, you're probably wondering if the cards you've got are legit. Well, don't worry, because fortunately, the average person can easily identify fake Pokemon cards. But you will need just a little bit of guidance. What's up guys, Pokémon here, and welcome to the next episode. And if that's you, well, then you've come to the right place. In the vast majority of cases, spotting fake Pokemon cards is a piece of cake. After all, the creators of these fake cards really only care about making them look just good enough to deceive the unsuspecting buyer, but they don't need to stand up to any kind of scrutiny. So let's make sure that you won't fall for their tricks, and that you can spot these fakes and protect yourself from buying them. Whether you're already a seasoned enthusiast, or you're completely new to the hobby, welcome by the way. This guide is for you. So, without further ado, let's get right into it. Alright, so before you do anything else, let's see if there's anything about your card that might give it away right away. So, take a look at your card and do a quick scan. Then ask yourself, does anything about it seem off? Begin by reading through your card and checking to see if there's any simple spelling or grammar errors. Things like misspelled words, spaces between letters, and other errors in syntax. Most of the time, the creators of these fake cards speak very limited English, so coupled with the poor quality control, it's common to find such errors. And these are usually dead giveaways that the card is fake. But besides basic spelling mistakes, another common error to watch out for is a missing accent on the E in Pokemon. This might appear in various places on the card, wherever the word Pokemon is written, and can be quite easy to miss, unless you're specifically looking out for it. But omitting this accent is actually a lot more common of a mistake than you might think, and can give away a lot of otherwise convincing fakes. And also, if you see any HP or attack values greater than 1000, that's another dead giveaway. This one is less of a mistake and maybe a bit more intentional. EX, V, or GX cards typically have the highest HP, with most being around the 100, 200, sometimes even 300 range, but anything higher than that, and based on that alone, it's probably a fake. But if you've read through your card, scanned it over, and found no spelling mistakes, obscenely high HP values, or anything else that's just plain wrong, then there is one more thing that can give away a fake card right away. You see, real Pokemon cards are actually made up of multiple different layers, all stacked together with a black layer in the middle. So, here's a simple trick. If you take your card and look closely at an edge, it can be any edge, top, side, or bottom, you should be able to see a thin black line between the two halves of the card. It is really quite thin, so it might be hard to see at first, but if you look closely, it should become pretty obvious. As you can see here, with this card, a dark line is present. So that's a good indication that this card is indeed genuine. If we look at the edge of this card though, there's no black line at all. It's just plain white, so this one is definitely fake. And looking at the two, our fake and real card that is, the difference is quite obvious. Even if the dark line is a bit hard to see, and you might even be doubting yourself, when it's not there, you'll definitely know. So, these were some quick and great ways to spot fake Pokemon cards right away. But it may not always be this easy, and there are some very good fakes. Alright, so if it's not obvious, if nothing stands out as being clearly fake, then it's time to delve a little deeper. Personally, when I'm unsure, I compare the card I think might be fake with one that I know is real. I find this to be the most reliable method. Maybe you have some real Pokemon cards, or maybe you don't, but what I usually do is look up an image of my exact card online. I've got this Butterfree VMAX here, so I'll search up its name, Butterfree VMAX, as well as its set number, 002 out of 189, which you can find right here in the bottom left corner. Now let's find a good image. Preferably an actual image of the card in real life, not a scan, so here we go, this one's good. So now, let's take a look at our two cards and see if there are any easy to spot differences. You might already see several, so we'll go through them all now. First is border alignment, or centering. It's a little hard to tell with VMAX cards, but if you look at the black border at the bottom, and on the left and right, it looks way too thick and uneven on all sides. Taking a look at this basic Yveltal card here, you can see an obvious example of seriously messed up borders. This one is extremely uneven and just plain wrong looking. As you can see, a real card is much more uniform. And although, of course, the borders on real Pokemon cards are not always perfect, and you may have some off-center cards, such as this one, it's still nothing super crazy, like you might see on a fake. Next is font. Fake cards will often use a different font from what you'd find on real Pokemon cards. As you can see here, with both cards side by side, the fake Butterfree is definitely using a slightly different font. And this is even more obvious on some of these basic fake cards, which are just clearly wrong, way too bold. And also, when looking at the font, also pay attention to the size. Is the text on your card too big or too small? And next is color and quality. A lot of fake cards are obviously made to be as cheap as possible, and as such tend to have a much lower print quality than real cards do. The text and artwork may look a little bit blurry and low quality, which you can see right here, or it may even have some weird print lines on it. Essentially, anything that isn't a sharp, high quality image, like this real card, is grounds for concern. But most prominently, you'll probably also notice a slight difference in the colors of your card, which in fake cards, I often notice to be overly dark in some places, and overall quite dull and muted, especially in the blues and greens. Besides poor color reproduction and overall bad print quality, fake Pokemon cards almost always fail to replicate the special holographic effects found on real Pokemon cards. Not all Pokemon cards have the exact same type of holo pattern though, so this tip is a bit more specific to the particular card that you're looking at, and will definitely require you to know what your card is actually supposed to look like, ideally with that image online. As you can see here, I've got this fake Feraligatr card, and if we take a look at the real one, its holographic effect is just completely different, and it's the same with all of these. You can also see that the holo in these fake cards bleeds into the entire card, rather than just the artwork, as it is with the real one. The worst fakes will literally just print the holo pattern directly on the card, which you can see right here with all these lines, attempting to replicate the real card. But going back to our Butterfree VMAX card, you can see that the fake one is also wrong here, with a sort of vertical holo effect, whereas the real card has a holo effect that runs diagonally. And on the topic of holo patterns, with special full art type cards specifically, such as full art VMAX or V cards, EX cards, GX cards, and so on, these usually have texture. While fake cards, like these, may have some shine, albeit the wrong shine, they always, every single time, get the texture wrong, or in most cases, straight up omit it. You can see that lack of texture is extremely prominent with these rainbow cards. The backgrounds are just so plain without it. But now, let's take a look at the cardstock, or the card itself. This, again, is something that fake cards always get wrong, and you can always tell. So, bend your card slightly. It helps to know what a real card feels like, but fakes are always especially flimsy, and bend super easily. This, if you remember from earlier, has to do with the multiple layers of paper that real cards use. A really great trick you can use here is to hold a flashlight up to your card. With fakes, the light will often pass right through. This is due to the low quality cardstock that's used. But if we take a look at a real card, you can see that absolutely no light passes through the card. It's just completely opaque. So if you shine your flashlight and you do see light on the other side, you've probably got a fake. And you may also notice a size difference, as fake cards most often are a bit smaller than they should be. And with this fake card, you can see that's just the case. If you have a real card to compare it with, then great, but if not, then for reference, the dimensions of a real Pokemon card should be 6.3 centimeters in width by 8.8 centimeters in height, or 2.5 by 3.5 inches. But finally, let's go ahead and flip our card over to the backside. As you can see, there's a clear difference here with, just for reference, our fake card being on the left and the real one being on the right. Grabbing a couple more different fake cards, you can see they all look similarly wrong. The backs of fake cards typically tend to be darker in color, a little too saturated, and often with the same or very similar types of blue used throughout, just a lighter and darker version. Whereas, obviously with our real card, there's light and dark, and a very clear distinction between the various different shades of blue. And those are all the main things to look out for. So, grab an image of our real card and compare it with yours, because ultimately, once you know what our real Butterfree VMAX card looks like, the fake one is unlikely to fool you. Luckily, you don't have to rip your card to find out if it's real, and don't listen to the people that tell you that, because even as a last resort, if there's a shred of doubt in your mind, so much so that you need to find out, it's not worth it. It's not worth potentially ripping a valuable card. So do me a favor and please don't. If you've gotten this far and you still don't know if your card is real, shoot me a DM on Instagram @Vidcomon and I'll try to help you out. But anyways, now that you've hopefully identified some fake Pokemon cards, let's move on to some tips so that you can avoid ever having to deal with fake cards ever again. So first, if it's too good to be true, it probably is. You might recognize this first tip as it's a pretty well-known saying, but it really does hold true. Nowadays, Pokemon cards are as valuable, but also as popular as ever. Everybody knows what they are, and if anything, people might be overvaluing their cards rather than undervaluing them. Of course, deals might pop up here and there, but gone are the days of some poor person's mother selling their old collection for pennies. On the contrary, scammers are well aware of the value that some cards hold. So, if you come across a deal that seems like way too good to be true, that's a red flag, and at the very least, exercise caution from that point. It's not like Pokemon cards are a hassle to store, so you probably won't find anybody trying to dump their base set Charizard that they've already had for 25 years for 50% market value. So again, be wary of extremely low prices or unbelievable deals, because if it's too good to be true, it probably is. And for my second tip, buy from trusted sources. This one kind of goes hand in hand with the first point, but when buying Pokemon cards, avoid unknown or unreliable sources. This includes sketchy eBay or online marketplace sellers, but also sketchy flea markets and convenience stores. Instead, always opt for trusted and reliable sources, such as established retailers and online sellers with good reviews. Your local card store is also totally fine, as long as they're trusted. I think you can see what I'm getting at here, but the key theme is reputation. Always make sure you're buying from somewhere that has a reputation to uphold, and that is well known for selling cards, and also has a proven track record. By doing this, it's highly unlikely that you'll ever get scammed. In fact, to this day, I have never been scammed before by a seller or a place that I trust. Knock on wood. These fake cards here, I actually bought purposely, knowing that they were fake, but I needed something for the video. So we've gotten this far in the video, and I know what you might be thinking. But wait, what about misprint or error Pokemon cards? Well, it's true. Misprints do exist, and you can see some popping up here on the screen. And there are lots more, far too many to list. But they're also generally pretty well documented. It's highly unlikely that you'd pull something never encountered before, if not impossible. But the thing with error cards is that certain collectors are willing to pay a lot for certain errors. So, if you're almost certain that your card is real, but you also notice something seriously wrong with it, perhaps one of the ones I've shown, then it could be a misprint. The next step here then would be to do a little bit of research about your card. Again, look up the name of your card, as well as its set number, and see if this card specifically has some kind of well-known error. If not, then look up the error more generally, and see if it has occurred before. Online forums or communities such as Reddit or Facebook can also be great for recognizing and learning a bit more about your misprints. And if you do indeed have a genuine misprint, then man, it could potentially increase your card's value tenfold. What a roller coaster of emotions that would be. First thinking your card is fake and worthless, to real and priceless. At the very least, a unique addition to your collection. But anyways, that was how to tell if your Pokemon cards are real or fake. If your cards are real, which they hopefully are, you might be wondering how much they're worth. So check out my video, which I'll link up top right now, as well as in the description, on how to tell if your Pokemon cards are rare or expensive. Hopefully, I can help you, not once but twice in a day. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching this video. I truly do appreciate it. Again, if you do need help identifying your cards, you can send me a DM on Instagram at Pokémon, or you can simply leave a comment on this video. And without further ado, stay tuned for the next episode.